Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of the Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for his contribution, his time, and his music for our intro and outro. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, and it can be found anywhere that good music can be found, such as Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and the list goes on. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, who's the artist behind all of our banners and thumbnails and all that fun stuff. So check him out on Instagram and on Facebook. Has a lot of commission pieces, and he's got a lot of pieces ready to go, and also basically specializes in horror-themed genres. So check him out. So tonight, guys, we are having I know Bubbles are back in the house, yeah. And I'm in the new house, and I'm echoing like I'm in a tin can. So we gotta fix that. It's driving me crazy.
It doesn't sound bad, actually. You sound better than the studio.
Really? The
Yeah.
studio is horrible.
I know. I need light. Sorry, I'm gonna play with it tomorrow.
We're going to be talking about scariest experiences, and I've told people to go ahead. I'm going to actually put this up so people can go ahead. Hold on, and this is the email you're going to want to contact. Okay, Bradley Monks is going to come on in a little bit, and Wayne has put something up for us to read, and we thought, okay, you know how many times people say to us, "Oh, I want to come on and tell my story." And they have an opportunity to, and wait, what? No? So snooze, you lose. Here we thought we would just do this and boom. No, anyway.
Yeah, good evening.
Right? I know. So we are going to, if you do, have one of your scariest stories that you want to talk about, we can most certainly do that. I got to get my red bubble back up. Sorry, Bubbles.
No, it's okay.
There we go. That's better. This is the email, and it's also in the show description, which is the outerrealmcontact@gmail.com, because we can't just post a link to the studio in the comments.
No.
So you have to email us, and then we can go ahead and send you a link. It brings you into the studio, and you get to tell your story and answer questions if people have any. So we just thought that would be something nice and different to do. So anyhow, in the meantime, we've got people chiming in. Hello, Dana.
Hi.
Hello, Tara.
Hello.
Yes, very much so. Aside from this thing here right now.
No, it'll get there. You just moved in.
I know, right? I know. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you, Wayne. Hi, Jessica, and happy birthday again if Marshmallow's listening. It's his birthday today.
Marshmallow's too funny.
Yeah.
Oh. So you're back. How does it feel?
Yes, it feels amazing, especially this year we talk, but
I know.
I want to say thank you to everyone who, had amazing positive thoughts and all your messages. And thank you for your prayers. My daughter's doing really great, fantastic. Her surgeon calls her kidney the Mercedes of all kidneys. So thank you so much. I want to thank you for all the notes and all the messages passed through Michelle. I appreciate all of them. My family is just so humbled by the response was just incredible. The messages. Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice.
you so much. So finally, life's starting to get a little bit normal. She's still in isolation, but anyways, when I said, "Oh, I'll be back on the 15th," I had no idea it was a Q&A because I had made all of these promos back before the new year for Michelle, like just gave her everything the first week.
Yep.
So I didn't know. And then I said, "Oh my God, it's a Q&A." I was just like, "Oh, this is just the best time to slide in."
I know. And it's nice and
Um,
relaxing.
it's very relaxing. And
Mm.
when I saw the subject matter and you said, "Well, the scariest thing," I was just saying to Michelle before we came on live, well, that one's not an easy one with us because we're constantly working. So
Mm-hmm. It's
thank you. Thank you, everybody in chat. Thank you, Colette. Yes, it's, I don't know,
you don't know what your scariest moment is.
scariest.
Okay, well, even we'll start with you. So yeah, scariest. Like even before you started working with
Oh,
me.
before, well, it was working with you was that one time we were in that house. I mean, that was pretty scary to lose yourself on the middle of a staircase. I don't know. I think the scariest moment for me, it would have to be when two things: when I was scratched and when my family is touched.
Mm,
If my family's affected, that's going to worry me because I'm not always there to
mm-hmm,
sense it or see it. And that's, I know you've been through that in the most
mm-hmm,
severe way anyone can.
mm-hmm,
Um, that one's a big one for me. But the first time that I was ever affected personally would be the first time I was scratched. And I knew that I was delving into something that I had no right being in.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that would have to be my first one. And I literally felt that from the inside of my skin out. But there's so many, it's hard to remember all of them. When
It
you do
is.
this kind of work, there's a
Well,
lot.
yeah, I mean, I mean, it starts off from like maybe think back to one of your very first ones. I'm just going to put this out there, guys. The email is scrolling across the screen. If you have a scary tale you want to tell, I mean, we're going to be going in order. Once Amelia and I are done, we're going to bring Bradley Monks on. Well, before I bring Bradley on, I'll relay Wayne's story because it's in chat, and then we'll bring Bradley on to talk about his experience, which was pretty wild. And then we can, if anybody else wants to come in, you have to email us. We'll watch for it and go from there. So why don't you start off with maybe the first one that really unnerved you, Amelia?
Oh, that would be living here, moving
Mm-hmm.
here from
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, moving here and not knowing anyone. And at the time, we were really in the middle of nowhere. Like there wasn't the way it's built up now, didn't
Mm-hmm.
exist. I would have to
Right.
drive 25 minutes to go grocery shopping. It's not like now I could walk to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say feeling like I just walked into the exorcist house.
Mm. So what gave it that feeling for you?
Oh
Because I
crap.
mean, being intuitive is one thing, but I mean, having something that makes you feel like that, you
Physical
know?
signs and people telling you that it's just because it's a new build. So, and even though I'm intuitive and I was gifted and I knew that then, I didn't know much about the dark side of things other than what I saw in the movies. The internet was not around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aging myself. Um,
Yeah. Mm.
like it wasn't around until my daughter was about 2.
Right.
It
Mm-hmm.
was all the signs of, Amityville. I had the loads and loads of flies. I had the banging. I had the scratching. And they would
Mm-hmm.
say to me, "Oh, we just built the house. It's newly built. There could be a mouse in the wall because you're in the middle of the country and it could have
Mm-hmm.
been in there from build." And I'm like, okay,
Right.
well, I can tell you they don't screech their nails across above your head.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that finding, you know,
Mm.
hundreds of flies in a room dead is not normal.
No, no, it's not
Um,
normal.
I don't care how often the doors are open, that is not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Smells are not normal. All the classic signs, just it was like something was knocking on me saying, "Wake up,
Mm-hmm.
we need you. We need you
Yeah.
to, deal with this and read this." It was, I just kept closing my eyes to everything, and this was the biggest wake up call.
Right.
But I
Right.
would have to say that, that's one of the times I was the most afraid, because I was in this house alone, 6 days a
Mm-hmm.
week, most of the time by myself, no
Mm.
friends, no nothing. And all I had were walls surrounding me. It was newlywed, moving things around. You're setting up your house. So every
Mm.
little sound gets your attention. Just like I'm sure if there's a sound in your house now, you're in a new home, you're going to notice it because it's not something you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, it's so much more quiet than the manor was.
that house is very quiet. My dog's crying because he can't get the bed the way he wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that. Voices, shadows were a big thing for me. Um, well, Michelle knows this. The War of 1812 was, in my backyard. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to deal with that. I dealt with soldiers. I have photographs with where you can catch pieces of visuals in them
Mm-hmm.
in the bushes, and there's nothing behind the bushes. There's no
Mm-hmm.
homes, no lights. Yeah, it was one hell of a lesson. I can tell you. I had to come in to bless the house. I was raised Roman Catholic, and he was a sensitive, and he had
Mm-hmm.
told me, and he wouldn't come past my foyer. I'm telling you, it's like the movie. That's what went through my head was the Amityville, not to that extreme, but all those signs, all the classic signs that you see in the movies. It wasn't in the movies; it was
And of
in
course,
my
you fear
real
for
life.
family more than for yourself, too, right? Like,
Well,
it
at the
becomes
time, I
more
feared
about
for myself because I
yourself.
was by myself.
Right. Every man for himself. Sorry, kid.
It was
Yeah.
just me here, right? It was just
Right.
me. I was alone all
Right.
the time. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's when you have kids, then you have that huge fear. Do what I
Mm-hmm.
do to help other people, is it going to hurt my kid? That's a big one that we face all the time when we're helping people. And that's
Yeah.
why, I can get abrupt or short if Michelle always says there's two parts of an equation. It's us helping you and you helping yourself. And if I
Mm-hmm.
find that you're constantly, continually delving into this stuff, I'm going to have a hard time to
Mm-hmm.
put that at risk. We both
That's a
would,
really big one. I
Yeah.
don't think people realize, like, for 2 decades I've done this, I've had things happen to my family. I've had things follow
Yeah.
me home, and I've seen pretty horrific things. But we take that chance. I think people become very accustomed to having that safety net, and we never mind helping anybody. I've like I said, I've spent 20 years helping people, but it's really
Yeah.
frustrating when somebody keeps putting themselves in harm's way. I mean, some people are just targets, period.
Yeah.
But if you keep putting yourself in harm's way and you want to keep, playing with things that maybe not everybody's meant to do it, and as investigators, we help a lot of our colleagues, and I always have, and I'm happy to do it, but not everyone is meant to do it. Sometimes, people go in, they're very unnerved, they're very frightened, and there are things out there that know it, and they're going to target you, and they're going to take advantage of it. Family is we take those chances. I've had my daughter get affected, losing her sight. She
Oh
lost
gosh.
her
Yeah.
sight
That would keep me away
because
for
of
good.
something that I did. And I know this because she went through every test under the sun. We had her psychiatrist, psychologist, we had her MRI, we had her under CAT scans, we had her go through eye specialists. I mean, they went through everything, through her head, through her eyes, everything.
Yeah.
And it took my family doctor saying, "Hey, have you worked on anything lately?" Because thankfully he was very open-minded. I went, "Oh my God, yeah." And you know what? As soon as I acknowledged it, and thankfully we weren't meant to go back. We weren't supposed to go back anyway. It was dealt with. Literally by the next day she could see.
Right? Like I can't imagine as a mother going through that. And I'm afraid to say or think it because what you think and say comes back at
It
you. So if
does.
you put that challenge out there and say, "Oh, I would never do that because
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't handle it." Let me tell you something. If they think that you have any strength and you can fight them, they
Mm-hmm.
will affect you in that way that you fear most so that you do back off.
They're fully
Remember that.
aware.
Yeah.
but fully aware.
Very aware of what frightens you.
I'm careful at all times. That experience humbled me in a way, and it set precedence for how I moved forward in assisting people and investigating from that point on. And this was very early days when this happened. This happened like year 2, and I've been at it almost 20 years, and it set precedence. It never
Yeah.
went back to any other way. It's easy because I'm pretty fearless, always have been.
She is. I can attest to that.
Anyone who's worked with me are just like, good grief. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm fearless. Maybe I'm just a meathead. But
No.
I'm a big believer in mindset, and I just won't give it to it. And I never banked on something infiltrating my personal space and affecting my family. And it happens.
No, we've been working together for 4 years now.
Mm,
We met
I
in
know, right?
2018. We started working together in 2019 because it was the end of the year. And I honestly and truly believe that I've never done this work with anyone because I never trusted anyone. And I do trust Michelle. Michelle will be the first one to pull me back. You know, because sometimes you get wrapped up in a vision and you can get drawn in very easily, and you need someone working with you. I don't feel that working alone in this field is a good choice.
No, it's always good, to have somebody, I mean, let's face it, 2 sets of eyes are better than one. Dana wants to know, do you say a prayer so spirit doesn't follow? No, I ground my energy though. I don't necessarily say prayers. Not that I haven't, I guess. It depends on really what I'm working with. It depends a lot on the mindset of the family I work with. Because if they're very, very, religious, let's say, then yeah, because that's what empowers them. And sometimes they want to pray with you. I just like to ground my energy. I'm a firm believer in grounding your energy, working with frequencies and vibrations, binaural beats, things like that. And it really does help a lot. And it's a more, to me, I don't want to say the word logical. I just want to say it's just something that a lot of people can actually relate to. I mean, some people aren't. They don't have any sort of faith.
But if you
Funny
don't believe
enough.
in something, it's not going to work.
Well, that's just it. And funny enough, because I mean, I've seen people become some believers. Let me tell you what, after having things, after having things happen. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think that for me, the scariest thing was watching and realizing that I wasn't impenetrable and that my family could be affected. I could have all the faith in myself that I wasn't going to be affected, but I didn't bank on the fact that my family could be. I've been in cases with some, in really vulnerable situations with some really hardcore things, like being in Romania, the haunted forest. That thing was completely out of your element. And I'm not afraid to say, no matter how many years I've been doing this, I wasn't scared at all, not at all. But I was completely out of my element because it's not a controlled space. When you're outside someplace like that, it's not a controlled space. You're in a place that has portals. You're in a place that has UFO activity. You're in a place that has a whole lot of stuff going on, and you don't know what's going to come out of those woods. It's ancient land up there. Ancient.
Yeah. I think all of that was preparation for you to be able to do what you do now. So, hi,
yeah.
Lynn.
Yeah.
How are you, darling? She writes, I've never been scared, but got hit by an energy that knocked me on my butt. I think a lot of us have had that experience when you're up against something really dark. And you don't even have to be, let me tell you something, you do not have to be at the location for that to happen.
No, you do not. I'm going to read Wayne's in parts here because he gets cut off from YouTube. So Wayne says, my experience was being held down in bed one night, couldn't move or take a breath. My cat was freaking out. There was a huge black figure in the corner that filled the entire space, floor to ceiling. I was finally able to break loose, and the cat and I bolted from the bedroom, we stood in the kitchen, and the cat was hissing as it stared into the bedroom. I slowly went back into the room looking for whatever it was. The room was cold, and as I came around the corner of the canopy bed, I noticed something up in the crown molding. At first, I thought it was two large moths that are somewhat common in the area, but then I really took it in. There were actually two orange globes with black slits in the middle, and you realize that because they blinked. It was at the point they blinked in unison at me. I was freaked. I screamed for whatever it was to get out,
Hello.
that it wasn't invited and it didn't belong here. And in that moment, they both vanished. I spent the rest of the night in the living room, sitting in the chair with the cat. We stared there until the sun came up. I tried calling my bestie multiple times that night, but none of the calls made it. It's true because I keep my phone on 24/7, and he could have at any point. I mean, he called and called. I woke up in the morning. That phone never went off once, never rang once because he was calling,
Crazy,
texting.
right?
That morning, I had a whole slew of messages and voice messages, and I was just like, what the hell just happened? So if you want the full story, you can catch it. I believe it's on season 3 of Paranormal Survivor, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, we're getting into some more. Okay, this is actually a good one here too. You want to go ahead?
Sure, thank you. Hi, Colette. Colette says I've had a lot of things happen in my house, things moving, etc., but that was caused by me PK manifestation. So that's psychokinesis.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through a bad time grieving when my mom passed away, but everything is okay now. I am a spiritualist medium. Thank you for sharing that with us, because
Very
that's
nice.
a big one. We incur a lot.
It is a big one. I mean, psychokinesis. How many times have you heard Amelia and I talk about this? It's easier for someone to think there's a demon in the house or something really malevolent than it is for them to realize that we're pretty powerful individuals and can project things. We're amazing people. Always remember that. You want to get that one?
Hi, Tamara.
Amazing.
Tamara says, even the most seasoned people have stuff show up. Even when you just live your life, being a light in the swamp is the best description of being sensitive to the paranormal. A very good description.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Hi, Dana. I found my 30-year experience is just don't be afraid. 100%. It's truly hard and effed up sometimes, but you can't give evil that advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I keep going.
Definitely. I find it funny, as in strange, when people have a haunting and they need to take their HH back and they're not strong enough to say, leave my house, get the F out, just make me. Yeah, I don't do the cursing.
We can't. No, we're on FM.
No, I'm saying in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not me. But if it works for you,
yeah. Sometimes everything needs to have its butt handed to it.
Yeah.
Hold on, Michael. We're going to be talking about the psyops or UFO situations and everything that's going on tomorrow night's show with Joe Montaldo.
Yeah.
In the news, and we're going to be there. Okay, so here we go.
Yeah, we'll be on that tomorrow. Hi,
yeah,
Zach.
the whole show will be just about that.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach.
Hi, Zach. I had a similar experience to Wayne's when I lived in Tempe. I was held down one night in my bed and heard something growling at me. I told this being to get out and felt something lift off me. Very creepy, but cool. There is nothing more chilling to me than a growl and it's within inches of your head. Right. That is something I've experienced. I can tell you it is startling and chilling. It would put anybody on their feet. Like literally just like, oh, that was creepy. We were on the phone once working and it was like not even, I swear to you, like here. And it just this growl and I'm like,
you don't ever get used to it. The first time it happened to me, it came through the phone and I really didn't know how to react. The best I could come up with was potty mouth. I went, you're a potty mouth, because it called me an F and C word, like, oh.
See you next Tuesday word. Yes.
I was just like, oh. I'm just really mortified, being called the name more than anything. And then it was all growling and I was just like, okay, man, whatever. But I'll tell you something. You don't really get used to it. No. It takes a long time. I mean, the last time I had something really go at me, I was in my ensuite. I was coming out. I was on my way to help a family. We had a consultation, and I was on my way to meet with them, and something growled at me, and it was like right in my space. And all I remember doing, because again, after a while, you just realize it's your mindset. Just don't give up the fear, whether you fear it or not. Keep it to yourself as best you can. So I just grabbed my purse and I walked out and I said, "I'll see you in an hour, mister." And I just kept going. That's literally what I said. And I just kept going. I'm like, "I'm not giving it to you." And I'll tell you, that thing wreaked havoc in that family life. And I'm sure it had a hand in a few things that went on in my
Yeah.
house after that.
I
Guaranteed.
I don't think that, I mean, sometimes I mean, I do say provoking is bad, and of course it is. I believe that your response has to be justified by knowing what you are going up against, not knowing and provoking or freaking out. You
Mm.
could just be putting fuel on the fire. That's all I mean when I say I wouldn't handle it that way, is only because I need to know what I'm up against. First of all, I wouldn't handle anything without Michelle.
Can't figure out where I'm pointing.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because everything's backwards here with Apple. But like
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything on my own. But I mean, I would. That's not. I don't know. I just know instinctively not to react to something that way, which is not in my personality at all. I'm very
Mm.
knee jerk with my temper. But when it comes to this, it's almost an instinct inside of me that's like, well, slow down.
Mhm.
What
It's
is this?
easy. You just have to be very
Yeah.
firm, but not. I don't believe in being disrespectful, but for
Yeah.
me, that's what I would say to anybody. It's like, "Nope, I'll see you in an hour, mister. Get my purse, keep going." That's
Yeah.
it. That's just how I react. That's how I handle things, and I've had a lot of success, but that's me.
Yeah.
You know,
I had a,
that's me. That's me having control of what's going on in here, and
yeah.
that took a long, long time to get there, to not, like, having a good poker face sort of thing, I guess, is probably, the best way to describe it, and just trying my darndest to just keep all of that to myself, you
Mhm.
know? This is
I
something from my grandfather, because you can feel it, just don't show it, and just try
Yeah.
to forge ahead, and which is exactly what I did.
It's really good. I had a good thing happen today just before I read Tamara's. I was getting water out of the truck, like cases of water, and my garage door has a habit of just closing, the one that, when you're going to the house.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, come on. Can you just please hold the door? I walk through and I'm like, thank you very much.
That's it,
Walk through
exactly.
with the
I'll
case
take that
because
help,
it kept
thank you very
closing and I'm
much.
holding the case and I can't open the doorknob to turn it to get in. And I'm like, thank you.
That's
So,
it.
it's not all bad.
It's not all
Tamara,
bad.
there is no way you have 57 years. Are you talking about 2 lifetimes? She's way too young for that. Tamara says, my 57 years of the paranormal, it taught me that you are always learning things and you cannot pigeonhole what it is. It may not be what you think. Think just breathe, ground, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Oh, yeah, never be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-mm.
Better yet, don't go down that road if you can avoid it.
No, no, no.
Colette says, I've caught a lot of VVPs and they are very clear. I've caught them in work and at home. I don't do them all the time.
Yeah, it's not always a good idea to do them at home. It's something that we don't do.
You're
Um,
not old.
I remember Lorraine Warren saying to me one of the worst case that she's ever done came from a family member, of the people that were helping doing EVPs at home. And I also worked with a couple of people who ended up in a really bad place because they were doing EVPs in their home. And in this one situation, her husband had passed away, and she got a really vile EVP. And she asked me, got a hold of me, and luckily we were in the same town. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. And she played it for me, and it was this growling thing that came out, hissed, and called her vile things. She goes, "I need to know if that's my husband." I'm like, "Did he like you? I don't think this is him," because
Yeah.
it was terrible. And it took she wouldn't stop. It became so addictive, and the house got worse and worse and worse. And it took us at least a year to stabilize it and just to get her to stop doing it. And I think
she was continuing.
She was continuing. And another family we assisted, it was with a pendulum. And again, both situations were in grieving, because the second family, her mom was a medium and would work with a pendulum, and she was very good at it. And after she passed, one of the daughters, and we're talking an adult daughter here, would try to communicate with her mother via the pendulum. And something, of course, came in, which sometimes, I mean, they will. Well, sometimes people who are grieving look for signs, and they're so desperate for one that they don't necessarily realize, like, they'll take whatever they can get, you know? So, you know, in that case, it got really bad, and it took a lot of work. Like, it took a lot of work. I mean, about 8 months, and that family lost everything. That family split up. You know, it was really horrific. Her health went down the toilet. And this was a woman who worked out every single day, and it just got crazier and crazier.
It's not for everyone.
No, and in both these cases, both people were grieving. You know what I mean? So I think it comes down to that whole mindset thing. Okay, we're gonna get up to Zachman. Okay.
Zach says, on another friend's show, their guest did a spirit box session, and whoever was communicating through the box called me out by name. So I had to call into the show. Whoever was talking through the box. Did that? Oh, there we go. Called me a whole slew of insults. The most notable one is that they called me a Democrat. Somebody's following your Facebook, Zach. No joke. That entity was not a fan of me.
No, exactly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to send Bradley. I'm sending you that link, and then you can come on the show. Just click on the link. Well, Bradley's been on the show before. He's with Canadian Haunted Expeditions out in the east coast of Canada, and his episode did really well. The archive did really well. He's got so much to talk about, but he had a really interesting experience.
Me? Lynn, I love Lynn. Democrat is an insult, huh? No, we're not political on the show. Those were Zach's words.
That's right.
Tamara says, I don't mess around with stuff. EVPs are a type of invitation. I do not recommend this. Actually, Bishop James has been saying that a lot on his show. It must be happening a lot because he's constantly having to discuss it when I've clicked by, because you can see him on TikTok too. He's on Fridays.
I think if
he's talking about a lot, so it's got to be happening.
Yeah, well, because unfortunately, I think with all of these shows on, I think if you're seasoned and you know what you're doing, you stand a better chance of not having any problems with that. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who watch these shows, including a lot of young people. You know, there's a lot of phone apps you can get, and people get into trouble because they just don't really know what they're doing. They think, oh, it's something that looks easy, and it is. But I think people who are seasoned have a little bit of a better chance of knowing what they're communicating with. You know, with that being said, I've worked with some very seasoned researchers and mediums get themselves into some trouble as well. So I guess it just depends on the person. Like Lynn's had a lot of great activity, I think, or a lot of good results and no issues, which I think is great. And I think if you've been doing it long enough, you probably know what to look for and what to shy away from. And unfortunately, with some people, they really don't know. You know, they don't have the experience to know when they're being fooled, or if there's something, malevolent coming in. I think some people just become so enamored with the fact that, holy God, did I just get something? This is like bloody amazing. And then they keep going on without giving it much thought. And Bradley, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
You look good and fresh and amazing and alert. You're an hour ahead of us.
I don't feel alert and fresh, and I just got done working 11 days straight. So
wow.
Oh my God.
Oh, you deserve the time off, Brad. Good Lord.
I know. Wow, I'm glad that you called in, or you wanted to come on and tell your story. So tell us about your amazing story.
Well, it was amazing. I don't know about amazing, but it was definitely
Spooky.
an eye opener for me. I mean, you know, yourself, Michelle, we known each other for quite a while here, and it was one of the scariest ones I ever had, and it sure made me realize of other things that can happen within the paranormal or investigating the paranormal and stuff. So, you know, not all things are EVPs and shadows and stuff. Are some places you can go to, like the example, the Ninette Sanatorium in Manitoba I was at.
Right.
And we were there doing tours and helping people out, doing a little fundraising there. And one of the buildings that we were at was actually one of the old children's hospitals for TB patients for kids.
Mm.
And I had about 40 people up in that building, and I had 3 psychic mediums with me. I was standing next to a ping pong table that was in there, and 2 camera people in front of me, and we were doing an EVP session, and had 3 psychic mediums standing behind me. And all I heard in the background was "look out," and whatever that force was, it shoved the 3 psychic mediums aside and went right through them, pushed them out of the way to get at me. It never felt like a set of hands, but it felt like an energy force, a big, huge blast, and it felt like it hit me right here. And when it did, it lifted me right off my feet and it threw me right across, and I landed on top of that ping pong table.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, what was allegedly in the building?
Well, the building itself was a children's ward for tuberculosis, so it was TB kids only in that building. We caught multiple EVPs of little girls saying, "Hi, come help me. Um, who are you?" I had my name called in there because we were in there like multiple times. And but over in another building, which was the adult building, that's where the adult men stayed. There was, my medium picked up on a gentleman there. I got the sensation, the feeling of something there, but was kind of keeping its distance. But it kind of felt threatening at the same time. Just, you know, you get in a situation where you shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be.
Right, right.
But that situation there, when we were in the adult building, Lori come up and she said, "You need to keep your distance in here." And it's like, okay, why?
Mm.
When that time of tuberculosis, the First Nations people weren't always welcome.
Right.
Nor if you went there with tuberculosis, a lot of the times you weren't allowed to come back to your reservations. They disowned you.
Wow,
So
really?
yeah,
I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
in fact, I found out about it, and I actually found out some articles about it. So what it was this native fellow here and his family disowned him, and they wouldn't come visit him, wouldn't see him. They had nothing to do with him
Mhm.
because now he was mixed in with the white people. So they didn't want nothing to do with him. So they didn't bother with him. What it come to she got out of him was I kind of resemble his father.
Mm.
And
Oh,
he had
okay.
a real bad hatred on for his father. His
Oh
father,
boy.
he got from him, was kind of abusive and stuff towards him at way before that time. And he had a little bit of hatred on. And so, yeah, so I had a relation. He kind of, you know, picked up. I was kind of sort of like him. I kind of, you know, the demeanor of him and everything else. And,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, he just did not like me. So Lori's like, you know, he said, you know, Laurie kind of tried to get us together and hook up and get us talking a little bit more and get a little bit more conversation going with him, but he just don't want nothing to do with me. He had a hate on for me,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of the team they were fine with. Laurie, Sean, Alden, they were good. He was good with, but me, no.
Mm-hmm.
So the second night we did the investigation. That was on a Friday. Saturday night we went up the children's building. We were investigating up there. Well, he must have decided he had more of a hate on me because that was who came after me.
Wow. So your medium, could she not try to move him on? Actually, look, it's the same thing Dolly's
That's
asking.
Holly's saying, yeah.
She was standing right there, and he didn't want no part of it. He shoved the three. There was 2 mediums over to my left side. Lori was standing on my right side. Shannon was there, and he just like plowed right through them. The people stood there and watched it and said like it was just like somebody went right through and just shoved them right out of the way, and he made a beeline right for me.
Wow. And
I wonder if he had an attachment.
Yeah,
well, I don't
too.
know. I didn't stick around to find out. I get out.
No, I mean the spirit. I wonder if that spirit himself had an attachment.
Well, it could be very well a possibility. We tried, like Lori tried working with him to move him on, and tried, and just the last toward of it, he just didn't want no bother with anybody. He just wanted to be left alone. But come to find out in future research about this guy, because of confidentialities and stuff, I cannot release a name, but we did manage to find out about his parents.
Right.
And his parents are deceased because they were both killed by him.
Wow.
So let me nix the suggestion. I was going to say bring the parents forward to cross him over, but that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen because he both killed him. No. They came down there to visit him, and he killed them there at the place.
Jeez.
Well, then he had an attachment from life, moved on into death.
Now you're hitting on where I think I'm going with this. Is I think he had an attachment way before then, even possibly while he was still living, and there was an attachment, something going on there, and I mean, with skinwalkers and wendigos and different things through that
belief system.
History, you never know.
Living in a vortex?
Very well could be. Like I said, we tried to move him. The only safest place that I could get myself there was on the old chapel grounds. It was so a consecrated ground, and that's the only place that I could feel safe.
Yeah, you have to follow your gut with that. Yeah, it's dangerous when you can't see what's coming at you.
Did you? So I take it you only frequented the location once.
No, actually, I went back there.
Glutton for punishment.
I probably went back there like probably 10 more times.
10 more times. I think if Michelle could go to Romania 10 more times, she would. Let's be careful here.
I went back to that place 10 more times, but I did not go to that building.
Okay. All right. And he obviously didn't come and seek you out.
No. It just didn't seem like a seeking, but Lori could pick up on, like, he was watching me very closely at a very far distance. He would be up on the window somewhere watching and see where I'm going to make sure that I didn't come in that direction or whatever else, right? I would keep down, like the old nurses building was still there on site. Still there today. It was a 3-story building. That was still there, so I would take groups of people down there. We used to do tours there, and I would take groups of people down there. That was an interesting one too. One night we were down there, and there was an old caretaker, and we ran into him into the laundry room, and Lori picked up on him there, and we had a great conversation with him, and I actually ran the recorder and got EVPs of him basically answering back to what he was telling Lori. And he was kind of a character, a little joking guy. So I had a tour, and I asked him, I said, like, would you play a joke on the group I got coming in here tonight? You will see them. I said, when they come in. So about 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I said, anytime, his name was Harold. I said, anytime, Harold, you want to play that joke, go ahead. He played a good joke. He shook that building. I thought, oh, God, there was an earthquake. Yeah. That whole 3-story building just shook. Every window rattled in that place.
God, that's a little crazy. That's crazy. That's a lot of energy
right there.
That is a lot of force right there when you can deal with it. And it was quite a thing. Like, we heard a window get hit and sound like somebody threw a water balloon at it. We went out and looked. There was nobody around the area. We had security cameras set up. We looked at them. Nobody's around, but it sounded like a huge bang, and there was nothing there. Then shortly after that happened, and that was pretty cool.
So what do you do? Do you and your team have like some kind of a ritual for grounding or protection, or before you go into some of these places?
You know, I see it a lot on a lot of platforms and stuff, and just basically go on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and people talk about grounding and faith and stuff. And I believe faith is what you ever believe in, is what if you know, I could believe in the rock outside is going to be outside. That's what's going to protect me, and that's what it's going to be. But I mean, my family grew up Pentecostal, so yeah, I believe in God and heaven and all that. And yeah, we will all face judgment probably one day. But yeah, I you know, don't go with fear. You know, yeah, that shook me up a little bit. But I just walk myself out of that situation, and it's just no different than being in a violent situation. You get yourself out of the situation and make yourself safe. Then basically that's what I did. But we used a lot of tiger's blood sage there. We saged anybody and everybody that came to those tours and made sure you know they were good before they left. We always protected the grounds outside the areas of that place, and you know, definitely when they drove off the property, you know, nothing was going to go with them or us. So we did everything we could, and some of the advice I got from you, Michelle, too. So
well, I'm glad it came in handy.
It worked. So you know, I stand by yours as the Bible right there for protection. So
thank you.
A big deal. Grounding's a big deal.
Grounding, I think, is a big deal. Do you find that grounding helps you guys when your team goes out? I mean, we do it. You know, my team has always pretty much done it.
Well, I do kind of things a little unorthodox. You know me. I kind of I like to push them a little bit to get the activity. I say, if you know, take a camera and recorder and start that as soon as you leave, wherever you're going. Run those cameras. Get it. I don't care if something trips you up, fall don't flat on your face. Get it on camera. But it's I try not to use protection during investigation. I tried to experiment a few years ago, and we put protection. We started bringing crystals and stones. Some of them did into the investigations, and I could watch the evidence drop right off. We did a graph, and I could see like EVPs, shadow, everything just dropped. And it felt like the energy just backed itself way off, and they didn't want nothing to do with us. But if I went without that stuff and without the protection, I seem to get a little bit more activity. I find that I get a little bit more EVPs. Even good spirits will seem to, you know, want to connect with you a little bit more. But definitely protect yourself before you leave.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Right.
Amazing.
Well, thank you for coming on and telling your story. If anybody has any questions for Brad, just chime in and he'll hang with us for a few minutes. Here you go.
Absolutely. Oh, do we have a... Sorry, I was
go ahead.
On the wrong page here. Cici Lapa says, hello, Cici. I feel they have something to do with other dimensions. I actually spoke to one. She's referring to having seen 7 spirits.
Right. I know. What do you, Brad, what's your take on, well, you're our temporary guest. Why don't you take that one away?
What's that one? What was the question again?
There we go. We feel that they have something to do with other dimensions.
She's referring to the spirits that she's had experience with.
Right.
So she's had experience with 7 different spirits.
Yep. There we go.
Were they dimensional spirits, or are they?
Well, that's
what she's saying. She feels that it's dimensional.
Yeah.
I'm not a big on aliens and, you know, and stuff like that, but I really haven't had the experience with aliens, but I have had experience with what they call grays, and Michelle knows what I'm talking about there. I have captured a couple of them on film. I did an investigation in Saskatoon with the lady that had experience with aliens and visitation. I believe there is some kind of connection there, but I think they know a little bit more than we do. Our understanding of them is not up to par to what they have as knowledge. And I think if the Greys or aliens, if they were dimensional peoples, I think they were there to take and try to disclose their full selves. I think it'd be a little bit too much for us and too overwhelming. I did a haunting right here in New Brunswick where it went down the family line. It went from the daughter to the mother, from the mother to the grandmother, from the grandmother to the great
Wow.
grandmother, where
Right.
they had
Generational haunting.
experiences with aliens. And that's the
Oh
one I had
yeah.
you help me with. Michelle. And yeah, it's just and you can't stop it. It's still happening to this day. I tried everything, and
It doesn't happen very easily with VTs.
no, it's
It's
just
generational a lot of times. There's a reason, and a lot of times it's an agreement that's been made before, long before, even
well,
from
this is what
childhood.
I'm getting to find out. It could be back to multiple generations within that family that maybe they had a close encounter contact where, you know what, this is going to happen. And, in the future, this is going to happen. And it could be something,
Mm.
like you said, some kind of agreement they might have back then. But that's a whole different understanding than more than what we can comprehend, I think, right now.
Yeah, she is referring to spirits though, because she writes the one she spoke passed away in 1860 and could materialize into 3 dimension, then go beyond into second dimension, into 2 dimensions, and turn into a shadow.
Mm.
So
That's interesting.
that doesn't sound like alien.
Not that one, no.
No,
I mean, some people
No.
believe that ghosts are dimensional bleed-throughs.
Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Joe.
Yeah.
I believe that too. I think so too. But is it would have to, with her in that situation, I think I would want to dig down into the history of the location, and not only the building itself that maybe she in, but maybe something to do with the land or the area within around her. So maybe hit her, historical society and try to find a little bit of information and see if, a name or a date or something, and try to coordinate something there. Maybe, you might be able to put your finger on it.
Cece, can you let us know in the comments, unless you'd like to come on, if you can let us know where this happened, that would be quite helpful. Did this happen in your home, or were you on an investigation, or were you trying to help someone?
Yeah, chime in.
1860. It'd be interesting to see what country that happened in as well.
Mm-hmm. This is for you.
It's like in Nova Scotia. There's people claims down there close to Oak Island of seeing apparitions of Templars.
Yeah.
Now we
Go
see
figure.
those. Go figure. I don't know.
Tamara asks, sorry.
No.
Tamara asks, have you experienced angelic spirits?
That's for you, Brad.
No, I haven't.
Ooh.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I've had amazing angelic experiences,
Yeah.
I have to say. I think all you have to do is just ask for their intervention, and you find, for a while, it was a lot of little things that were going on. And I thought, wow, pretty amazing. One of these experiences.
Oh, wow.
I would say probably not like angelic as an angel's wise, but I consider one my angel, and I have had visitations with her, and that's the one that happened in Nova Scotia, and Michelle knows that one. And
yes.
You said she would connect when time comes, and it's happened.
Good.
Yeah, it's happened. It's come across. So
Right.
even right here in the house here, even right in the kitchen here where I'm at, is I see shadows. I see movement go by, or hear tap at the door or some things.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing with the way you cook something that she opposes to the way you do it.
Ooh. That's what you're picking up.
She has something to say, and it's something that involves like you're a pot in front of I hate doing these kind of calls, but she is like relentless. It's something that I can see a lot of vegetables in it, something that's slow cooked, and you're there and you're tasting, and she's like, you've got it wrong.
Ooh. So
what is it? It'll probably come to you when you're cooking this dish next. It's not something you do often, but it is one of those slow cooked, comforting meals that you learned from her.
My beef stew, it didn't turn out.
Cut up vegetables.
She
was. It's just to let you know she was there. It's something something about dried thyme bread.
Yeah. I know where you're hitting at.
I don't normally
Yeah,
do that. It's just she is so wow.
yeah, she's quite powerful, isn't she?
She's strong. She's very strong.
Yeah.
She
Very
was a
strong.
strong
Beautiful,
person.
beautiful woman. Very
Yeah,
beautiful
she
woman.
was.
Very strong, family oriented, and that was her life.
Yeah, yeah. She raised me and named me when I was born.
Wow.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful woman. You were very fortunate.
Oh yes.
Beautiful.
All right.
CC says, this happened at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. I was visiting with my mother and sister. They worked there in 1860. The Spirit worked there in 1860. Was it okay? Well, at least we know it's in the United States. Washington is any part of the U.S. down there is quite quite electric, to say the least, with all the wars. So yeah, I wonder if something's holding them there or they work there. You will hear that often in theaters where people stay there. I guess, especially with actors and that, because it was like a happy place for them. So you'll hear sometimes. Now, Cece had what's called oh my gosh, it was right on the tip of my tongue, an intelligent haunting, because she could have a conversation and communicate with spirit. Most of the time, places like theaters will find a lot of residual, because the music and the imprint of that happy energy or that deep dark energy in that part of the play or the music or the film or whatever it is resonates and stays there. So, those are kind of cool too, when you can hear the piano playing, not necessarily if you're at the Stanley Hotel, but if you hear things playing and you hear the music, and sometimes you can hear opera singers in the back. That's most often than not, it's residual, and it's really neat to experience that. But yeah, she definitely had an intelligent haunting there.
Yeah, well, at a fort, you probably would be. Like, I mean, we have the forts from War of 1812 from around here, and you can go with a recorder and you'll pick up voices and stuff up there. It's all residual stuff. It's nothing really intelligent, but yeah, they're around. But here's the question. I got one for you, Michelle, tonight, and this is the stone tape theory. So you know how they say memory can be embedded within rock or granite or the stone, whatever that building is built of. But they see the apparitions and they claim that it's within the buildings and the fabrics. How do you get rid of it?
Okay, what's your theory?
My theory? I don't think you can. How do you get rid of something that's on a stone? If it's embedded right into the fabric of that land and the stone and the materials and stuff, and it's been there for hundreds of years. I think you can try probably everything you could to try to get that. I would try anyway, that I learned to get rid of it, but I don't think you could if it didn't want to move. If it's been there that long of a time, I think you have a difficult time in trying to move it.
I think anything is possible. I also know with energy, that energy can be manipulated. When you're dealing with things like stone has memory. It can resonate, it can absorb, and you can go to stone. There have been experiences where you could be in a cave or a cathedral or something like that with the stone and do EVPs and actually catch imprints of things. Like, for example, a cathedral, you hear singing and chanting, things of that nature. But I believe, again, it's just energy, and energy can be worked. Frequency, vibration, all of that stuff can be changed. I think with any spirit, they don't want to go, they don't go. In any, we've come across spirits who are like hundreds, thousands of years old. And just, that's it, we're going. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
I can do that after all this time. But I don't know. I am a believer in working with energy, and I think energy can be manipulated.
One of the thoughts I had is, since it's stone, any kind of hard material like that is susceptible to vibration or sound. So I wonder if a person could work through sound or vibration to do that.
It's funny that you say that, because Tamara said, I wonder if vibrational energy would help erase the stone. I believe that it's possible.
I think so too. Absolutely. Dolly, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just saw Cece come up. I'm like caught that. Deli says we are all entities. We all live together in source.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Okay, take it.
Cece says the present for its theater in Washington is not the original theater from the 19th century. The theater collapsed and there was a serious accident there in the 1890s that killed over 60 people. The theater that's there now is a recreation. Nothing is really original. So I find it interesting that this event happened in a recreated building. So if there's a ghost or something, anomaly, it has to do with the actual space-time continuum in the building, not the building physically. No, but it's also land-based.
Yeah.
Just like wars, it's not necessarily dimensional. There's residual going on with wars. There's intelligent hauntings like with wars. Yeah. I mean, Michelle and I have cleared my backyard I don't know how many damn times, and things come in and come back. I'm literally 6 kilometers away from headquarters for, War of 1812 and politicians, and where I live, I'm so close to Niagara. The last comment that you had posted, Cece, you had written that he worked there. That's why I understood differently. But accidents, you go to Chicago, you go by the river, and that ferry that tipped and killed hundreds of people because they all rushed to one side to look at something, and it tipped over and hundreds of people died. That whole dock, the whole pier is haunted. Those things are going to happen anywhere where there's tragedy. You're going to find that, especially old cities like that. Tamara says you can change the energy of land with iron spikes.
Absolutely. Iron was really big in ancient times in warding off evil. That's why sometimes people keep horseshoes over their doors. As long as it was nice old iron, you can keep away things like fairies and things that you just don't want. Elementals.
I get my iron out of old cemeteries because it's consecrated ground, so I like the iron out of there.
Right.
You shouldn't remove anything from an old cemetery.
Bubbles is like, wow.
I don't want to be clearing you again. That's all I'm saying, Brad. I don't want to be clearing you again.
I don't keep it for myself. I make sure I place it on top of a Ouija board when I bury it 4 feet in the ground.
I get it. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because they could be in place there for something else, and you could be disrupting somebody else's. But I wonder if trains, you think about how many trains have overturned in that. If way back when they did use iron railroad spikes, if that helped keep, that level of sanity around the spirit world, that in that area of wherever the trains went off the track or collided and people died. I mean, the explosion in Halifax.
You can actually hear that stuff. You can hear that stuff. I've had things like that go through some of like the communication devices doing EVPs. You hear the trains coming to a screeching halt, and
so then the iron spikes aren't doing anything. Then if you hear it,
I
that's
don't know.
what my question was. Like, I wonder if it does anything to that, because that's a lot of iron spikes in one area.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Unless it's residual, then
were
it wouldn't have anything.
Tracks iron at one time as well?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have been. Yeah, we did a train station last fall there at Macadam, and that's got tracks running on both sides of it, and I mean close. That place was just as active as anything. I never seen a train station so paranormally active as that was. We had a busy spot, but come back to the scariest thing. We just teamed up with Murder Crows. We amalgamated last fall, the two teams. So Jeff Tucker, a friend of mine, he was just out there the other weekend. He went to an old warless burial ground in St. John. While he was there, he felt like he was getting watched behind him. He turned around and he seen this black thing just bolt from behind him. My theory of that is probably like I learned from an old priest and stuff that when I was out in Saskatchewan, most cemeteries, when they're church, when they're started and consecrated by the church, they're also appointed a guardian of that cemetery. I ran into one out in Saskatchewan, and the thing was on horseback. He was all in black, and he chased us out of the cemetery. That's my first and only cemetery I ever did, and I'll never do another one. But yeah, this thing chases.
Wow.
But yeah, so to me, I think that's kind of what he got a glimpse of. I don't know if you guys have any experience with cemeteries or a guardian of a cemetery, what it could be.
I've only heard of like a gatekeeper. We had a guest on that said that once. Remember, Michelle? I don't remember the whole story to that. You have a better memory than I do. Something about, but I think it's a culture thing too, though. I don't think it's everyone. I think it's a culture thing. Because it was the first time I ever heard of it. And I thought, well, this is bizarre because I know Roman Catholics have like saints and stuff like that they, whatever, in their faith, because I grew up that way. I don't know anyone else's faith. I know with the Italian culture how that works because I am Italian, but I've heard of gatekeepers where you have to ask for permission to come in and communicate or bring anything forward, or they will push you out. So I wonder, I can't remember. I have to look into that more.
Yeah, I don't recall that.
Yeah, it was the first time I ever heard of it. And I went, what? You're kidding me. It could be why I've had some really crappy experiences in cemeteries. Maybe they did have gatekeepers and I wasn't aware, but I would like to think that I'd be able to see that.
Yeah,
well, you probably wouldn't see that. It's not like they're going to stand there and open the gate and say, come on in.
No, but I mean, being a medium, they are spiritual beings. It is something that I would be able to see. So I don't understand how, I don't know. Shannon says, why do so many investigations involve something to do with the railroad?
I don't know. I think
I would say tragedies.
Yeah, I think it's 50. I say 50-50. I think there's, a lot of experiences with many things. Railway,
a lot of things with ships.
Ships and
you could fly over the Titanic and pick up EVPs.
Yeah, exactly. How many stories have we heard about the little children with the hands on the power pushing the bus across a railway track or pushing a car across a railway track? There's a story in Texas. There's a story in Burlington. I've heard that story so many times.
Yeah.
So it just kind of makes you wonder. I know the one in Burlington. There's actually magnetic. It's called Magnetic Hill. There's magnetics under the ground. So it's just like, I don't know. Is it? You can do the experiment. It's just one more tale. But this story goes everywhere.
Yeah, we have that down in Moncton. It's called Magnetic Hill.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's got to be all over the place, right?
Right. So
it's in the earth. So wherever it is, it's going to create something. It's everything's energy.
And your vehicle's made out of metal, so it's it's anything magnetism, it's going to pull on it. So.
And Jeff Tucker, hi Jeff, says railroads also conduct EMF. Yeah.
There we go.
Shannon says thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Cece says people have reported seeing ghosts at Titanic artifact exhibitions. Yeah, those are attachments to the artifacts. Absolutely. Especially if they're personal items, you'll find that a lot of stuff. And then the imprints of energy and the residual comes into effect with the Titanic and any tragedy with artifacts as well. I know with King Tut's, when his exhibition came to Toronto, I was a small child, and I can tell you I couldn't go through the exhibition, and I didn't know why.
In Egypt.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember being really afraid of it as a child and asking the teacher if I could stay away because I was so scared. Now, going to school, Toronto public school system, we had a lot of trips, really good trips like that for history. But I was so scared where now I'd embrace it. But I was, as a child, I was petrified, and I was the only one who didn't want to go through. So now I know why. At the time, I didn't know. And I wonder how many kids who go through museums feel that way sometimes.
Well, this it's a location I'm looking at for the summers in Nova Scotia. I know Michelle loves Nova Scotia, and it's all part of her heritage and Templars and all that down there. But there's a particular restaurant I'm going to look at going into. It's called the Five Fishermen's Restaurant.
I know it.
I think they've been on the Food Channel, Brad.
Yeah. Well, they got more in food.
Yeah.
That building originally was a morgue, and it held the victims of 532 or 34 victims of the Titanic.
Oh, I did see that, and it wasn't on the food. I did see that story. A
Mm.
lot of places were turned into morgues because of that, because the bodies floating up
Yeah,
on the shore.
yeah,
Because that happened right
They were
next to
picked
Nova
up
Scotia.
also. Yeah, by
yeah.
trolleys and things like that, weren't they?
Ooh, you have to come
Good
on and
times.
show us like pictures and stuff because that's
No,
so
you
exciting.
have to come.
I know I can't go anywhere now, but yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, that
That's
sounds like it would be
exciting.
exciting.
I'm so
Absolutely.
jealous. So
Well,
jealous
Yeah.
right now.
the Titanic Museum's right there down, not too far from it either, and they got
Yeah.
like little kids' shoes and stuff there, and everything at the museum. And so,
Mm.
yeah, that's one of the projects I'm working on is trying
A
to get
lot
down
of
there.
unnamed tombs as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, they got one of the biggest Titanic cemeteries right there. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. We want to hear all about that one. That'll be good. You
Absolutely.
know, but thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story.
no
And
problem.
Thank you.
we'll have to do it again sometime and commit a
Yeah,
whole
yeah, I
episode to your
get,
excursions.
yeah, definitely for sure. We're got a lot in the process coming up there this year. Is going to be a whole exciting new year for us coming up, and you never
Yes.
know where you may see us at.
Oh, I can't
We're
wait for
always
that one,
watching.
Brad.
That's it. We're always
Share, share,
watching.
share. Yes.
That's exactly words you'll be using. Watching, Michelle.
I can't wait.
You have yourself a good evening.
You too. You guys, ladies,
Thanks
have
for
a great
joining
night,
us.
and we'll
Thank
chat to
you.
you soon.
All right.
Thank you, Brad. Have a good night.
Have a
Thank
great night.
you.
Good night,
Night.
everyone.
Oh, that is so exciting. I'm so jealous right now.
Oh, I know, right? I
Yeah.
love it. It's a great place.
Oh,
Okay,
Cece,
let's keep on going before we do our station ID.
do you want me to read that?
Yeah. Of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
Tamara's ahead of us. She's already got the coffee cups on the screen.
I know.
Cece says work associates whose mother and herself went to Egypt and went to King Tut's tomb. The mother took a flake of the plaster off the wall near his sarcophagus. She was going to keep it as a souvenir until they got home, and the mother became deathly sick and became ill with cancer. This was totally undiagnosed, and there was no cancer in the family. She and her daughter immediately got back on a flight and went back to the Valley of the Kings, put the so-called souvenir, back to the tomb. She
Mm-hmm.
came, and then we're waiting for the other part, and I'm guessing she's
Yeah, cuts
better.
off. I asked about that when I was in Egypt, and it's funny because the older generation would say, yes, you have to beware of the curse. The younger generation, not so much. But I've heard this many times, the same sort of idea throughout different parts of the world, different situations.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and Wayne says, when I was there, I picked up on a man that was stealing the jewelry from the victims, which made it harder to ID the victims. I believe that.
Mhm.
I believe a lot of them were not identified because of that. And especially with the ones that were former Navy that had their tags were taken because
Mhm.
that's how they were able to identify some. So they knew they were wearing them. What a
There we go.
tragedy.
Absolutely.
What a
Absolutely.
tragedy.
Not
Well,
too
guys, this is the first one in 3 months for me. Would you like me to do the station ID now?
Yes, I think it'd be a good time. Why not?
Okay, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM as well as 105.3 FM. Tonight we have all of you in the house. This is a Q&A, and we were just listening to Bradley Monks and his situation, his stories that he had to tell us about what was the scariest thing that ever happened. Thank you all in chat for sharing your stories with us as well. And remember, there's still time to come on and tell your story. Just follow the ticker at the bottom of the show where it says the Outer Realm contact at gmail.com. And Michelle can send you a link and you can come on the show. There's still time. Stream or listen to our archives on the platform you normally use. We'd like to give a shout out. I haven't said this in 2 months, and I just want to say thank you, Folgers, for fully sponsoring our show from day one. Michelle and I love you, and we thank you so much. Also, big shout out and huge thank you for our outro and intro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp and find him on Facebook and Instagram. Speaking of which, if you're there, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are, where there is a like and you can follow, please do that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wow, and we're back. Shout out to Folgers. I couldn't see myself on the screen because I had the other one on.
I know.
Wow.
Well, that's there's a lot of really interesting comments that have been coming in. Wayne actually adds a part 2 to his comment.
Oh, great. Wayne says he was a tall man, long white beard. He was the same man responsible for grabbing women in the women's washroom at that restaurant. Wow.
Da, da, da.
See, that place is like, I've seen it even on the Food Channel. Isn't that crazy?
The haunted food channel.
No, it's just sometimes like it'll come up because there's a Canadian guy that goes like a kind of like a Guy Fieri in the States who goes to different places all over Canada and talks about the dining experiences there. And I believe he was there for one of them. He's done quite a few. He used to be, our kids would remember him. His name is John Catucci because he used to be on the children's shows that they watched as children. So it's hard for me to watch him, although I love his sense of humor. It's hard for me to watch him because I can still see him like the ABCs kind of thing, right?
That's funny. I mean, just sucking on like throat lozenges. I'm dying.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You never even told me you weren't feeling well yesterday when I talked to you.
Well, it just came on last night.
Because you're burnt out. You're burnt out.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, moving will do that to you.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think, Bradley made some interesting points. A lot of people have made some interesting points. I think we lost we lost somebody in chat. We due into a political comment. I really want to be clear that we don't talk about politics.
Oh no. She comes and goes. She comes and goes.
Okay, yeah. We don't.
She wouldn't get offended by something like that. That's why I made a joke of it.
Yeah.
We do not share our political opinions at all. And even if you see a reel or something or a post on my stuff, I'm not sharing my opinion. I'm just sharing that article or whatever. I don't believe in it. I think it creates big, deep issues.
Unnecessary friction.
Absolutely. And with the way the world's going today, you really can't speak on behalf. I don't believe any political party really is holding up their side of the deal. But anyways, meaning like they're not really who they were before. Yeah.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
We've been talking about a lot of really scary experiences. What about really amazing experiences? Something that just stayed with you? Something
like
really
the door
awesome.
being open for me when I had to move a case of water.
There we go.
I think that's a big deal.
There we go. Because everything's always scary, and I think like media promotes scary and that seems to be a thing. I think they should do a show on like really amazing experiences where people have good experiences. It's kind of like extraterrestrial. People have really bad experiences and other people have really phenomenal experiences. It's the same thing, I think, with the paranormal. I've had like amazing experiences.
Absolutely. I've had some really amazing experiences with the divine. I don't talk about it too often because I think people tend to, and I think it's a mistake. I think it comes from learning and growing up in whatever family and religion. Not necessarily is the divine always or should be connected to religion. It all depends on the perspective that you hold and how you see them. Right. I've had many experiences with them, and I think we are quite frightened to talk about it, thinking that I think it's easier to talk about the negative. Like you said, it's easier for people to believe there's a demon in their house than to believe that they're projecting this energy. The same thing comes with the divine. They think, oh, I'm going to be labeled as crazy. But if I talk about a demonic haunting, then, hey, I fit right in. I've had both experiences. And I can tell you the divine is very real. And ever present. And like Michelle said earlier, you really just have to ask. That's an invitation you can extend.
Mm-hmm.
And you will know instantly
Mm-hmm.
that it's real. It's not something you're going to second guess, but a demonic or a negative entity, you will always be second guessing.
Well, I have to tell you, like when my kids were little, one of them, I have two really phenomenal experiences, and with both with my youngest, who are,
Yeah.
about 9 months and 3 weeks apart. Don't ask, I won't tell. Anyway, we're gonna leave that right there. Anyway, no, one was born thoroughly. Okay. Anyway, one time when my youngest was just a little, just baby, old enough to be sleeping by himself, so I would say probably about 6 months old. I always did this thing, because I mean, you have to understand, my baby is like going to be 29. Okay,
Hard to believe.
my baby's going to be 29. So I would always say things, put it out to the universe, or, angels, or, just to watch over. I always say, you might do a better job of knowing something's going on than I do. So one night I could hear, like, something just woke me up. Like I just felt this hand on me, and I could hear in the baby monitor, there was just this muffled sound. And when I went in to the room, his blanket was wrapped around his head somehow. And even though, like, it's breathable baby blankets, he
Yeah.
was still really panicked. So that was one. And then another one came again, like months later, maybe even a year later, where my other son, he would sleepwalk. And I would keep a gate, well, I put a gate at the end of at the top of the stairs after that, just clip one of those suckers
Still
on. It
have
wasn't going
one.
anywhere.
Yep.
But he was sleepwalking one night. I didn't know. He opened his door, walked through. He was probably about 3. And something whispered in my ear very loudly, went like this. And I had a hand on the back of my, up between my shoulder blades, sat me up in bed. Because I remember jerking like this and going, what the heck was that? I wasn't in the paranormal then. And I was
That
sat
makes
up.
it harder to swallow.
Yeah, right. So I looked and I could see something in the hallway. It was dark, and I realized my son was heading towards the stairs. But he never came out of his room. I mean, he was a solid sleeper. I mean, if that child, slept walk 5 times in his entire life, I would be surprised. So, I went and I'm like, turned him around, brought him back to his room. And from that point on, we just had somebody come in and professionally childproof the house. Because obviously my efforts, with child number 2, being 2
Scary,
at the
right?
time. Yeah. So I truly believe that there's definitely, something there. There's someone, there is something that keeps an eye on you. And I think if you put it out there, you will definitely get that assistance.
I believe so. I remember telling you I was cleaning my chandelier and I was standing on my bed.
Mm-hmm.
But I still feel it was my brother though. And I was cleaning the chandelier. It's a brass chandelier, and the only way I could reach it is if I was standing on my bed. So I stood up, and all of a sudden, because stupid me's holding on to the chandelier, chandelier swing. Well, I started to fall, and I would have broken my neck at the end of the bed at that point. And I felt something push me back on my feet. I dove forward, and I just felt something push me back on my feet. I believe a lot of it has to do with I didn't have any children yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I had Severina. What am I talking about? My brother had passed away. But I believe that a lot of it had to do with whatever, your presence with your child, or some people, they're saved before having children, like my dad. My dad went down an elevator shaft. He went down 8 or 9 floors. The day before, he had bought a tool belt, and he couldn't afford a real leather one. And he's like, oh, I'm just going to get a real leather one because the vinyl ones, the plastic, they break so easily. Had he bought that plastic one, I would not be here speaking to you right now.
Right.
And he would have passed away.
Right.
At 39 years old.
Yeah.
Because, it wasn't safety on construction sites. It wasn't what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, but yeah, see, there's some really good stories. and you always see, how many videos you see where angels are just swooping in, something of light swoops in and moves somebody from an accident.
Mm-hmm.
We see
You
that
hear
all the
about it
time.
all the time.
I love those. Don't tell me they're fake. I love them.
Yes.
I need to
Yeah.
believe. Okay.
Right.
Tamara says, I have heard angelic singing at a very low point of my life. I was somewhere out in the country and no theaters or music venues around. That's a special, special, special story.
That is, absolutely is.
Yeah, beautiful. Casey says, I had an experience that was quite incredible again. This was with my sister and mother in a museum in New England. You guys frequent museums. I like this. It was bringing a negative and perhaps even, I don't know what you meant by tomorrow energy. It was there in 3D again. And I think it could have been a shape. Oh no. Why did that happen? Shapeshifter. Anyway, I actually was able to touch it, by the way. This is a great show. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you're enjoying.
You were able
Apparently,
to touch it. Wow.
a lot of people like these type of shows, so we've committed to once a month of just a Q&A. So
Yeah.
look forward to that one, guys. The next one, by the way, mark your calendars, will be March 30th.
Cool.
That's it. That's
It's
the
my
next
birthday
one.
month. My birthday month.
There we go. So
My
mark your
birthday
calendars.
month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I just, I've heard so many people, tell unbelievable stories. I remember reading in a magazine one time, it was an angel magazine, actually. And I just
Mhm.
remember I was sitting in the doctor's office. I picked it up and I started perusing through it. And there are unbelievable amounts of stories. One was a Jewish lady, and she was there with her younger brother, and they were in a camp, a concentration camp, and they were holding on to, I guess, their Bible, right? And they had a guard going by, and he was checking everybody and taking things, and he stopped right at her, and she kept saying,
Oh, for the Torah.
like she was calling to someone for protection, right? And he just looked at her and stared at her for a moment, and then just totally just compelled and just kept moving, and did not, because like they were basically taking things from people and they were shooting, which is
Yeah, it was
sad in
so,
itself.
oh my
So,
God.
she just kept saying, please don't see me, don't see me. And he just kept looking. It was just like this look of bewilderment.
That's
you know.
crazy.
And then there was this other story I read about people, soldiers in battle, how they were completely outnumbered, and how, the opposition came towards them and completely backed off in fear. And there was just a small regiment, and they're looking around going, what's going on? And after the
See?
fact, they had spoken to someone from the other side, because they all got rallied up and taken, as prisoners. And they said, you didn't see the army? Your army was up on an embankment, up on a hill. There was none. There was nobody. So
Amazing, isn't it?
it is.
Intervention.
Things like that just make me feel like, it just sends shivers up my spine,
It
because
does.
we live in a pretty amazing universe, pretty
Mhm.
amazing world. And there's things out there that are just, people, call it whatever you want. But
It's
there's
cool.
something out there that's pretty amazing, pretty powerful.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting in a doctor's office. I was just like glued to this thing, I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
I love stories like that. I can listen to that forever.
Mhm.
You think about all the, I mean, I don't want to go into the Holocaust as if I know what anything
Mhm.
has to do with it, because I don't. And it's so traumatizing
Mhm.
for anyone. But to be respectful, that whole negative energy that was there and that was fueling
Mhm.
this monster,
Mhm.
for her to find even a glimmer
Mhm.
of peace or hope in that moment, just
Mhm.
really attests to her faith.
Oh, it does.
It's amazing.
I think
Beautiful.
it's one of those things that, again, the stories are just endless,
Yeah.
endless. There was another story where a vehicle had fallen on a child, and the mother was trying to lift it, and she couldn't lift the car off of her young child. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she was this big, beautiful, big, strong man who just lifted the car, and she pulled her son out,
Right?
and he
Oh
lowered the
my
car,
God.
and she looked for this man. He just gone in thin air. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, what the heck, right? Yeah,
Oh,
maybe. Yeah, it was a great story. It was
famous
a great
Angel of
story. I don't.
Mons seen in World War One. I don't know that story.
Mm-mm, no.
Zach says the closest experience I've had to seeing an angel was seeing a large white orb coming out of my parents' room when I was 16. The door opened and closed on its own. When I went to investigate, my parents were asleep and the door was locked from the inside.
Dun, dun,
Well, something obviously wanted you to see it.
dun.
I do believe that if you're seeing it, there's a reason
Yeah.
for it, especially in a situation like that.
Hmm. I
You know,
agree. I
um,
agree.
that's
Um,
amazing. I love this. Tamara says it amazes me how often angels walk amongst us and help people. Didn't you love those shows, like all those angel shows growing up on TV when you were a kid? I did.
mhm.
What was the one with Michael Landon? Something
Highway
Highway?
to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven.
Yeah.
That was always such a beautiful. I miss
Mhm.
things like that. I think we're so crude in our television now, but I miss those kind of shows and the ones with the angels where they came and they became part of they interacted with humans and they came in to help. I love that part of Angels in Charmed, the original Charmed. I don't like
Mhm.
the second one. Don't
Right.
remake classics, people, please. Like, seriously, Charmed was a classic for its time, and it was groundbreaking at the
Mhm.
time, even though it doesn't feel that way now with all the
Mhm.
paranormal shows. But in Michelle and our day, that show was everything
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the only thing out there, and it had a lot of truth to it before Supernatural, which of course we have to agree is, like, we all have to agree is the damn holy grail right now. Sarah says, I have walked into one but couldn't see it. And I feel like you probably walk through them a lot
Mhm.
and don't know. Kenny Blackburn, hi Kenny, says, I've been to Waverly Sanatorium. It's my favorite location. I have yet to go. Seen stuff that was unbelievable, was grabbed, hugged, and seen ghostly images. What you can't see, Kenny, is that my office is just loaded with images of Waverly. It is on the bucket list, more because I want to help people cross than anything. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was one hell of a
Mhm.
place. Sadly, there was many like that back then.
Two.
Wonder how many angels were there. Think about
Mm.
that. That must have been a busy highway to heaven.
I think you have to have balance. I think places like sanatoriums, I think you have to ask yourself if people are left behind, are they there because they're still in a confused state? Are they
Yeah.
there because there's something holding them hostage? Let's face it. I mean, these are the type of individuals that would have a bullseye on their back, easy to manipulate. How many people went in there not of sound mind, they're not of their own free will, and then you end up with something, you just throw in a murderer who basically pleads insanity, goes in there and then completely abuses and takes control over the area. That's not even talking about
Yeah.
staff and experiments and doctors. I mean, this place was a breeding
Well, Waverly was also an orphanage as well
ground.
as a sanatorium, a hospital, and a
That's right.
prison.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, that is quite a bit of
Mhm,
mixed energy.
mhm.
Absolutely.
So, who knows? I think if you can reach out and find even a glimmer of positive out of a situation like that, if that theory is correct, and we all have guides, which I believe we do, we all have guardian angels, which I believe we do. Some of us may have more than others because we just don't listen apparently, and
I
you
think
know,
mine's drinking.
right? Mine's probably rapping his head against the wall. Why would you listen to
Yeah.
me? I don't know. So we're wrapping your head against the wall, I'm feeling it. If that's the case, it really is a point of just being aware, paying attention. How many experiences are going unnoticed? Sometimes it's little things, you know. I remember an experience. I think it was like one of the big, I want to say like warehouse type of stores. Okay, I don't want to just say and just like giving a free for all these places, but um, I remember I was leaning down to look at something, and everything is on crates, and then they're all in these big, right?
Yeah.
And I started to bend down like this, and I felt something here, and I went down, and I couldn't go any further. Well, when I looked, there was a big wooden sliver, like a spike about that big, like a big wood one, just because out of the what do they call those skids?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I would have got it right. I would have. I was
Yep.
right at eye level with it. So something
Ooh.
hit me here, and I was like, and then I
Yeah.
looked. I was just like
Stopped you.
something so, it's nothing glamorous. It was nothing like, I mean, I think it was pretty damn miraculous because I
It's
saw, I didn't get hurt.
Oh, it's
So
amazing.
I know. I just, it's just little things. How much do we not pay attention to?
Yeah. Stacey says that is an excellent point from my research experience there. She's referring to her experience with museums. They were being held there. And it's
Yeah.
sad. Yeah.
It is very, very sad.
Tamara, that is so funny. My guardian angel probably thinks I'm Winnie the Pooh.
Jesus.
I'm pretty
Oh,
sure mine
bother.
went for
Oh,
a smoke break and a drink.
I
I think guides are important too. I believe that some people look at guides as a guide, and some people see them as guardian angels, whatever you may feel. And I know from my experience, they change over your lifetime. They're not always the same one. I do have one that I've had, I feel like with me throughout time again. But I do feel I can feel the difference in energy and know that it's someone different at different times in my life. I can see that as well when I look back. But it's
That's
just about
interesting.
connecting.
Why do you think they change? If you think that they change.
I feel like some souls that become guides, it's part of what they do after they've lived on the earth and had their whatever several life experiences and are able to guide you in maybe what was something that they had a great deal of experience in, so that they do pick up and see and can foresee all of it and assist you in maybe perhaps living instead of cracking your head open or having a stake driven through you. I think they can foresee things because perhaps they lived it in their lifetimes. And I believe guides have lived, this is my opinion and my feeling. This isn't something you read about or anything. In my experience, my guides have lived several lifetimes, and they have all lived on the earth at one time. They were all human beings at one time. I don't think they could guide you if they didn't have that life experience.
I don't know. Apparently, I've had a few guides also. One of them apparently was never lived here.
Yeah.
And,
Well, they could
and
live on a
I could
different
tell you there's no sense of humor.
Oh.
Because I'll make a funny, when a medium's communicating with me.
Oh, there is no sense of humor with guides.
I've
never seen a sense of humor.
I was just like, wow.
I've been reprimanded a lot, but not and it's not all bad, but there's it's not all good. Sorry. People think, oh, my guide gets this or that. I've been reprimanded for not listening.
I'm telling you, you don't listen. Yes, I do. No, you don't listen.
No, you don't.
No, you're right. I don't listen. I don't. But here's another spin on things. There's also a very strong belief that when we are at rest, or asleep, the body doesn't just sit. Like the spirit doesn't sit in the body that's at rest. It can go on, just like people in comas have come back and reported that they have gone all kinds. They've done all kinds of things. So it's believed that we work, or we go home when the car's in the garage, we go home, or maybe we work. You ever wake up sometimes and you just feel exhausted and you're thinking, I shouldn't be so bloody tired. I wake up, I'm tired from the inside out. Well, there's a lot of spiritual people. There's a lot of mediums. There's a lot of people in general who believe that we work. We help cross people over. We help guide people. Because if this is a dimensional thing and we can communicate or travel between dimensions, especially when we're back in our energy form. Why not?
I agree. 100%.
You know? Yeah. I mean, it's just another perception, right?
Yeah, Dolly says, my guides have lived all over the universe, so do we, lifetimes more than you know. I agree. I believe that the guides that we are given for the particular life we are living. So if you
Right.
have a very much strong ET connection, you will have, guides aren't necessarily like what I have. I can speak only on my experience that my guides have had human lives because of the work that I do. That's what I need, especially when I'm working with missing and cold cases. So believe it or not, I do have guides that come to me when it comes to law enforcement and that kind of field, because how would I know? Right. And I do believe that some people have alien guides if they constantly
Absolutely.
have, especially if you're a contactee,
Absolutely.
you're going to have that guide.
I
It just makes total sense. Yeah. And Dolly agrees. That's what is important for your needs. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Cece says, question for both of you. Do you think you have ESP abilities, etc.? I'm going to let Michelle answer that.
Oh, I think you should. You're the viewer. This might be interesting for you. Yeah. I think they go hand in hand.
I don't know how not to be one. I don't know how to explain it because I don't know how people learn to remote view when they take these classes. I know there's proven abilities, but I don't know how not to be that way. It's just, it's my everyday life. So I don't even know how to understand. I believe that everybody has an ability.
Yeah.
And I believe that we all use it differently, just like not everyone can be a dentist, not everyone can be a medium or a psychic or an intuitive or an empath, or it's based in it, and life experiences mold you as well. So they can either make you stronger or deter you from moving down that path. So that's a loaded, really good question, but like a loaded one. I believe everybody can see. Yeah, and Dolly says natural innate ability. Wayne says, I think we all have a sixth sense. Some are just better at it than others. I think some just practice it. My guides face palm a lot. Mine too, Wayne. And Tamara makes a great point. Your abilities change as well over the years. Yes, they do. They do. You either evolve or you practice something different. I never thought I'd be working on this side of the spectrum. It can be inherited, yes. My mother's side of the family as well, Cece. Yep. Yeah. And just recently I'm understanding that my father was probably gifted when I start looking at that.
It's the ones that don't talk about it for sure. My father refused to talk about it, yet, I found out after the death of my grandparents and my father went into assisted living, my father would occasionally talk about all these unbelievable experiences he had. And I'm just like, you never talked about that. You always made me feel silly for being that way. Because it's just something that he had a hard time getting his head around. He was very logical. My mother's side was all like woo-woo all over the place, a lot of mediums, and it was encouraged in us. I mean, they had, like a family member who was the seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son. Like it was just a lot of that.
That was a great film.
Yeah, we had one of those in our family.
That was a great movie to understand that. Yeah.
And my dad was just like, no. But as I got older, then all of a sudden he just started spewing out all this stuff. And I'm just like, this is all these years. And he goes, oh yeah, I've seen all that stuff. I'm just like, and it turns out that his mother and his father were both highly sensitive.
See, I think he was afraid.
But if you ask my dad, I was like, well, the house is settling. No, it's not.
I think your father was afraid for you because of your strength and your curiosity, and he knew you wouldn't leave it. I think that's what it was. Just trying to cope with it and understand it. Men are, they're especially his generation. You're there to protect your family. You're there to make sure they're safe. He probably felt like he couldn't keep you safe, and that's why he tried to deter you the other way. Just a parent thing, just a guess, not a psychic.
Believe you me, man, with my PK abilities.
Yeah.
I had the whole house on tilt, Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's just something that it comes down to not discouraging your kids. I can't say it enough. Don't lead them, but don't discourage them, because it really is like going through life blind. If you have that ability, however little or however big, it doesn't matter. Just, it's amazing to have. It really is like going through life blind. And believe me, going through this life, we need all the help we can get. So when I saw something, my mother would take out photographs, not say anything, just leave them down there. And I would kind of go, oh, I know this person right here. She didn't leave me. She just left the pictures out. I mean, families that I've worked with over the years, children being made to feel silly. You have an imaginary friend. Don't be stupid. People are going to think you're stupid. No one's going to want to be your friend. And then something happens, and that child certainly can't go to their parents and say, hey, I'm being tormented. Something is scaring me because I'm stupid for talking about it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's just, it's not always really an understanding way of dealing with it. Some people aren't very not very gracious in their speech when they're explaining things. You know, they really, it stays. You know, it stays. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Tamara says, make the paranormal normal for your kids. That should be a banner.
Mm-hmm.
And Cece says it's a gift. It is. It's yeah. Cece said my grandmother was amazing. At her funeral, a flock of crows landed on her coffin. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I do. I think it's awesome. I think tonight was a really great Q&A. And like some of you, people who like to say, oh, well, come on and talk about experience. I'm like, give you that. Nobody wants to come on and talk about it.
Apparently not.
Bradley took one for the whole dang team. Let me tell you what. And see, he survived. He's okay. So, come on. We'll do this again sometime, and we'll all pick a topic, and we'll you see we kept the email going throughout the whole show, and we're going to actually switch it up to, there we go. Now we're going to give you the guilt message. So I know,
that
right?
Is so funny. Oh my gosh.
But of course, it is the end of a segment, and we do have to bring it to a close, unfortunately. But again, if you guys enjoy what you enjoy what we do, you enjoy the guests, you enjoy the Q&As, again, like, subscribe, follow, whatever the case may be. We really do appreciate all the support that we get, and we do our best to work very hard for you all. But we are at the end of the segment, and we want to just thank everybody in chat for participating. It was a lot of fun. Big thank you to Bradley for just coming out there and taking it for everybody else. Thank you, Bradley. And always has an open door policy with Bradley. He has been on the show before. Go check out his archive. It did super well. It was a great segment. Big thank you, of course, to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring our show. And big thank you to Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his gift of his voice, his music for our intro and outro. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis, who is, of course, the creativity behind our banners. If you guys would like to see you guys would like to see somebody specific or have a topic, just email us at theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook group page, click the email button. Can't be much easier than that. Tomorrow night, it's going to be a little bit strange because, we were kind of wondering, I thought maybe our guest has gone AWOL, but it's like, no, I'm going to be there. So we might actually do something a little bit different because, Brad Olson, of course, part 2 of his book, Beyond Esoteric, Escaping the Prison Planet, is definitely going to be on the docket. But we're bringing Joe Montaldo on as well. And we're going to be talking, and maybe we'll bring it up at the top of the hour, but we're going to be talking about all of these crazy things that are being seen in the sky. Is it psyops? We know it's not extraterrestrials. because Pentagon's like,
Yeah, what is it?
extraterrestrials. What is it? Why is it so much? What's going on? So I think it would be nice to get Brad and Joe interacting on that at the top of the hour. So I think we're just going to kind of, give it a little bit of a mix. I'm going to feel it out, but I can tell you one way or another, it's going to be one hell of a show.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to miss it. So in the meantime, have yourselves a good evening, and we shall see you all tomorrow night. Thanks to everybody in chat, and thank you, Bradley. Good night.